and just gestures to the United States. You know who else has Shadowrun at home?
Who's that?
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Pixel It. My name is Kevin. With me as always is Phil. On today's show, we're finishing off King's Quest Kingdom of Sorrow Part 3. We're finishing it off. How you doing, Phil?
I'm good. I think today you may have set up probably the best reason why a person should sign up for our Patreon, because I don't know if we're going to have a funnier joke than the one you just told. I think we've peaked already, and if you wanna hear how well we peaked, you have to get a membership at patreon.com/pixelitpod.
Go to pixelitpod.com, which takes you to patreon.com/pixelitpod today. $1, $5, $10. They're all good tiers. They're all good tiers. You can do also $0. You can sign up for free. They're
Absolutely.
all the dollars goes to us. And by us, I mean they get redirected right into our expenses.
That's true. It goes right back into the show.
But they make a brief pit stop.
Yeah, very brief. They come in, they say hello.
They come in, they say hello. They pay off a bill.
Onward to website fees. Like, yeah, that's pretty much the long and short
but
of it.
you know, $1 gets you access to the blogs. $5 gets you ad-free episodes and access to the pre-show bonus episode, and $10 gets you all that plus your name shouted out at the beginning of every episode. And to that end, I want to thank Jesus Loves You, Kyle Seaman, Ruthless Mutter, Middle of Things, Sigma Sal, Chet Beaks, Dumbeth, Thick, and Friendly Friend. Thank you for being a friend. Patreon.com/pixelitpod.
It was not my intention to send us straight into a commercial for our show, but it was the situation was so fresh in my mind.
Listen,
I had to address it.
Yeah, you just gotta get you gotta get that bag. But you know, sometimes getting that bag, like it goes too far. I saw somebody post that, like, the thing with Haley Welch. Do you know who Haley Welch is?
No.
She is the originator of a memetic joke that tore up the internet this summer called Hawk Tua.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay, right.
Okay,
right.
so Haley Welch, a.k.a. The Hawk Tua woman. I'm explaining this like I'm Raymond Holtz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Next slide, please. Yeah.
Anyway, she started up a meme coin.
Oh my God.
The meme coin like went up and then it crashed. And people lost
because that's what they do.
People lost all their money, and now she's being investigated because, of course, she is.
Of course, she is.
It's 2020. 2024 is almost over, and I feel like some god of virality noticed that she was still out there and popular.
Yeah.
Popular. And decided that someone needed to be smited.
Right. It was like, wait, what the fuck are you still doing around here? That doesn't make sense. No, fuck
like,
you.
No. This is 15 minutes. This is 16 minutes here.
You try to get 20 minutes of fame, straight to jail.
10 minutes of fame, also jail.
Also jail.
10 minute, 20 minute. So that's when getting your bag goes too far, I would say.
Yeah. You succeed too much.
You succeed. Yes, you succeed right into failure.
Yes. Yes.
Ask
Elon Musk all about that.
Yeah. I mean, he's failing up into trillionaire status, but at the same time, divorce energy off the charts.
When you're a winner and a loser.
It's like that scene in Mean Girls where they're asking, what's the limit? Tina Fey is asking, what's the limit of this equation? And then Lindsay Lohan's like, the limit does not exist. The limit to the divorce energy that Elon Musk gives off
does not exist.
It doesn't exist.
No.
It's just going to keep going up.
Forever.
Forever.
Yeah. Forever.
So, how about we put the body in the marsh?
Let's do it. Let's put that adorable body in that dadgum old marsh.
When I tell you to dump a body in the marsh.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we last left off, King Graham had been slizzarded, where they take a little lizard, the slizzard, and basically it bites him and they change places in their brains. So Graham, his body is now inhabited by a lizard, and Graham himself is now inside the little tiny body of a lizard. He's eating moths. And the first part of this chapter,
and you're wearing a moth bolo tie.
I am. I'm wearing my death's head moth bolo tie. That's true. That's why I did it on purpose. That's why it's yes. That's
of course.
Mm-hmm. That's what that is. I think in advance. No, but he's becoming comfortable with being a lizard, both in the sense of he's figuring out how to walk on walls and do all that shit. And he's also becoming like, he would argue possibly a little too comfortable with being a lizard. He's not, on one hand, he's not thrilled about the number of bugs that he's eaten at this point. On the other hand, boy, they did taste good.
They did taste good.
So we've got
bugs.
a very interesting, this is actually possibly my favorite part in the book. Because it just goes on. It goes on not too long, but a little too long.
Just a little.
About his experience as a lizard. And I really enjoyed it because it's genuinely funny. Him kind of coping with being turned into this very alien thing to him. As he's doing this, we get this part was too long. We get a multi-level battle with a rat. Like,
yes.
the Rat King from the Nutcracker, it's King Graham the lizard fighting that thing. And it just goes on. And it's like one of those bosses in a video game, like Ganondorf's, and like fucking like turns into it. He doesn't change, but he just pops back up like 3 times.
Right.
Graham's like throwing him off of things and throwing things at him and finally defeats him. I honestly don't remember how. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. He finds himself, however, in Dunstan's room. The giant Dunstan is asleep in a chair, basically, and the room is filled with imps watching, and they're mocking Graham's body, which has the lizard brain, and the only thing it can say is, "I am Graham," or "I Graham." I Graham. It's an even simpler version of "I am Groot." It's that. And so King Graham is trying to figure out by the end of this chapter what he can do to get his body back. That brings us to chapter 23. We are, get the notes. So the Queen of the Wood is also in this room. She's in a cage. Lizard Graham sneaks up to her, and they have a discussion of like, how the hell am I I gotta save you, because she had basically given up hope that Graham would be able to save her. And right. Now she's, and she doesn't feel a hell of a lot better now that this lizard guy is here, because she's like, great, you're a lizard. That's not very helpful.
You're even more useless now.
Right. This is worse. I don't know why I'm supposed to take heart here. But he's like, fear not. And so they're discussing this, and they're watching Dunstan, who is also being mocked by Kuzco.
Dunstan is asleep, and Kuzco and the other imps are like, ha, he's a big dummy.
Just making fun of, and it becomes clear based on that Dunstan is not the guy in charge. That there's something wrong. That there's something, that he's being drained. The implication that they figure is that the figure in light from before, they assume it's a wizard, right? He is being drained by those lights. He's basically being used as a battery, and Dunstan probably is too, which is why he keeps falling asleep. So he's figuring out, okay, these people are under some sort of magic that Kuzgu has.
Right.
So we've got to find a way to break that spell, and we're golden. And in one of the rudest moves that the Queen of the Forest possibly did, she basically implies something like, well, I know how you can possibly help me. He's like, how? And she just flicks him across the room.
I love it. He was like, it's like, the description of it is like, Graham flies across the room and he's heading towards objects that he just has no sense of scale for.
Yes. And chapter 24 opens with it. It's like a Beavis and Butthead cartoon or something where Graham is just, or like a Ren and Stimpy cartoon where he's like flying through the air and you can just see his skin flapping around him and him screaming because he's basically going, and they explain, they're like, stature wise, he is crossing a very, very long gap. And so he's basically shitting himself over the throw that he has experienced. So he basically lands on Dunstan. And Dunstan, the key for the locked cage is on a thread. It's not, it wasn't very clear. It was like it's hanging from a thread or something like that above Dunstan. And so he's trying to figure out a way, like he tries to find where it's attached to at one end, and there's no luck with that. And he's trying a bunch of things, and finally, and he kind of just saws through it with his teeth, and the key falls and lands in Dunstan's beard. So now he's got to climb. So this tiny lizard, already pretty tiny, is on a giant. So he's in this forest of prickly beard hairs, essentially looking for this key. That gives you an idea about the scale.
Yeah.
Eventually he's found by the imps. They notice him, and he crawls and climbs to the ceiling. He climbs and he's upside down. This is new for him. So he falls, he climbs over the ceiling and drops and lands on his body, the body with the lizard brain in it. And he's just like, I don't know how the fuck I'm supposed to do this. He has no idea. And then in the most random thing ever, which is honestly random enough that I would attribute it to moon logic in an adventure game. He remembers that right before they switched brains, his nose hurt. He had a pain in his nose. And she goes, okay. So he bites the shit out of Graham's nose, and wouldn't you know it, they swap back. That's the funny button. That's the beep beep. That's what did it. Yep. And that's how it worked. So now he has switched places. But instead of freaking out and just starting to, drop kick imps across the room, he just stands still, and one of them addresses him, and he looks at it and says, I Graham. So clearly just let's keep up the ruse. Very clever.
Yeah, he keeps up the ruse. He's gonna just like, I'm still this lizard. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, clever stuff. Liked it. So, and that's the end of that chapter. We come to the next chapter, and hold on. Where did it go? Here we go. So they decide that they have nothing left to do with this Graham. So they just kind of send him off to be, I guess, butchered and prepared in the kitchen for dinner. He is going to be food.
Right.
So he's escorted there by one imp, and then the other imp, that cook imp that he met before, I think in our first section of this book, comes in, and he just grabs a frying pan and slams it into the face of the one imp, and says, and then you're gonna get the same. And scares him off. Basically, he's like, I don't want to kill you. Get the hell out of here.
Right.
And so and by the way, no more eating humans. No more of that shit. I don't want to hear about any of that anymore.
Yeah,
and
knock it off.
Yeah, stop it.
Eat a fucking corn or something.
Yeah, corn is delicious.
There's so much of it.
It's the most beautiful thing.
Ever been to Nebraska?
Yeah, we have too much of it. In fact, it's a whole thing. But so basically, the next step of the book is, it made me think of this story my grandpa told me once. He was a hunter. And I do not know if this is true, because Papa was a brilliant liar. One of the most prolific and awe-inspiring liars in the Deep South. And if you've been to the Deep South, you know that's pretty impressive. And he would just lie and tell these amazing stories. And he claimed that when you're turkey hunting, that turkeys are so stupid that they walk in a line, and as long as you shoot the one at the end of the line, the others further in front of him won't notice and they won't freak out.
Right.
So you can bag like half a dozen turkeys if you remember to shoot the last ones and work your way up.
Right.
Graham essentially turkey hunts the imps. He basically kind of hides with the frying pan, with a skillet, and Kuzgu keeps sending more imps in to say, what the fuck is going on? And every time they come in, crang, crang, and he's just like building up this pile of unconscious imps. And it's fucking hilarious. It's so good. I laughed my ass off. I thought this was great.
Is the turkey, so that turkey hunting thing, does that have anything to do with like the pecking order?
I think the implication is meant to be, and this is true, turkeys are idiots. Turkeys are the stupidest animals. And I read a book called Animal Vegetable Miracle, and it's all about raising your own food. And it was part of what really got me into homesteading. And my sister recommended it, and she's big into that.
Right. And
she raised turkeys. There's a part of it in the book where they bought turkeys as meat birds, and the author Barbara Kingsolver is talking about how these adorable baby turkeys, there's the little chicks, and she goes, "Oh no, I fucked up. I can't do this.
Right.
I can't do this. They're so cute." And she's like, 6 months later, I was ready to kill them because they are obnoxious, stupid asshole animals that will charge you for no reason. That are just like, they're just idiots. And they see themselves in a reflection, and they try to fight themselves, and they can hurt themselves that way. They're just dumb animals. And so I think the implication is that, they just don't look around. They're just not paying attention. I think there was also a myth that if a turkey looks up when it's raining, it will drown. It's an old Southern wives' tale I've heard.
That's just how dumb they are.
They're just dumb. I think
they
that's
could
the
drown
idea.
Standing in the rain.
Right. Exactly. Light misting could take them out if they get interested in the clouds.
Yeah. But they do have some wicked talents.
They do. I helped cull the most recent one that they did, and you pick these legs up, and they are no joke. They are big damn animals, especially the toms. It's messy work. That'll be my follow-up YouTube channel when I start getting into homesteading more in depth, and it'll start out like really optimistic, and about halfway through I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, man. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I recommend you subscribe.
And then it becomes a found footage horror.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And people argue over whether it's real or not. Like, they're like, no, he was a horror writer. No, that's not real.
It's not real.
No, but what's important is that I'm never seen again. That's the most important thing.
I think I am very aware that's how you want to go out. The end of your story needs to be, and he was never seen again.
It has to be. It's just better. It's just better. I'm trying to convince my wife of this fact. She does not agree. And then she looks at me and puts her hands on my shoulder and says, "Please stop talking about you dying." And I go, "Okay,
fine,
fine. I'm sorry."
But I'm not dying. I'm just disappearing.
I'm just disappearing. Yeah, exactly. That's the part. My legend lives on. Am I actually dead, or did I join the fairy folk in the forest?
Is he? It's like some say he's still in the Appalachians to this day.
Weeping hysterically.
Sometimes you could see him right before you see Mothman.
Yeah, exactly. But by that time, it's too late.
Too late.
It's too late for both you and Mothman, because Phil has eaten you both. Nothing can stop his incredible hunger. All right, so Graham's turkey hunting these imps. We get to the very last one, and he's threatening him. And the imp's like, hey, I actually don't like Kuzgu. He's an asshole. A lot of us don't like him, in fact. I would love to fight him and take over his slot because he's promised us a lot of shit and we haven't gotten any of it. So he's like, so what's our plan? So basically what they do is he brings Graham back to the court, the whatever room Kuzgu was in, and Graham's still putting on the pretend iGram thing, iGram from Apple, and and we get very satisfying moment because if you remember correctly, Graham was kind of humiliated by Kuzgu before, just kicked his ass and had him sent him running. So Kuzgu was like, "What the hell did you bring this guy to me for?" And Graham's like, "For this," and just pops him in the face, knocks his daylights out, knocks him out. So that's the end of that chapter. Excuse me. We come to the next chapter where basically Kuzgu, they've got him cornered. They've got him dead to rights. And he's just like, yeah, I'm kind of a fuck up. And he like admits basically that he's draining everybody. But right. he's also trying to kind of like play it off like he's, like, oh, no, I don't know. It's just, it's fine. It's whatever. I didn't mean to.
He tries to fuck everything up.
He's trying to play the pathetic role. And basically when they let their guard down, he begins his Ganon transformation.
Sure.
This is the way more appropriate. I should have saved the Ganon metaphor for this because
this guy.
This is it.
Yeah.
And he's like bone. It's kind of graphic for King's Quest. His bones start like snapping and reshaping themselves and stuff. And he becomes this new form. And they just run. They just run like crazy. They try to go. They go to free the Fairy Queen, and Dunstan catches them. He's woken up and he catches them. And Dunstan is like, no, he's my friend. They're like, no, he's nobody's friend.
Yeah.
If Kuzgu was an ice cream flavor, he'd be pralines and dick. It's one of those situations. And
I just listened to You Are Good did a podcast episode on Wayne's World.
It's just still good.
Yeah.
It's still the Wayne's World movies. They're not as high, but I hold them in a similar esteem to the Addams Family movies.
Sure.
They came out around the same time.
Yeah.
So there's a similarity there. They're very of their time. And I think all four movies hold up really, really well.
Yeah.
They're actually genuinely funny.
Honestly, in Addams Family, is it the first one or the second one where Wednesday does the whole thing at the summer camp?
That's Values. That's the second one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good moment where she sets fire to everything.
And there's this, and I was watching it. We were watching it with Graham on Thanksgiving because it's a Thanksgiving movie. Because
it's honestly, I could say there's like two Thanksgiving movies.
And that's one of them. Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's Addams Family Values and
planes, trains, and automobiles. Yeah. Yep. So we watched that, and being a parent changes everything. I know you've heard this a million times, guys. I do mean what I'm saying, but maybe not in the way that you've heard it from everybody else. It's just I put myself in the position of fictional dads now.
Yeah.
And go, how would I react if my son did something like that? And I watched Wednesday and Pugsley burn this privileged white boy camp to the ground, and I was just like, I'd be so fucking proud of him. Like, I was as proud of him as if he had already done it. It was that level. So yeah. But anyway.
Anyway,
like, real quick, I was like, how did we get here? Oh, right. Pralines and dick.
Pralines and dick.
So as they're trying to explain, Ganondorf / Kuzgu shows up, and the Fairy Queen identifies him as an Ifrit, which is it's a genie, basically. It's like
my experience with them is strictly Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Mine is mostly D&D. It's a similar vibe. It's a djinn, for all intents and purposes. So Dunstan sees that he's been a fool all this time, and turns on the Ifrit and just starts fighting him, and is getting his ass kicked because it's just not a fight he's meant to win. And this is another wonderful, I can see this in the game so clearly moment where you earlier in a few chapters ago, I didn't bring it up because it didn't matter until now. Right. You find this, you're told this detail that Kuzgu, while all of the other imps are, because they've got all these riches around them, they will only eat off of silver plates, instead of the bone plates that they normally eat off of. But Kuzgu is very insistent on, no, fuck that. I'm going to keep eating off of my bone plate.
I only eat off bone plates.
Right. Which at the time you kind of interpret as, oh, he's still of the people. It's his picture of himself, big game hunting for the Republican Party kind of thing. It's like, I'm still one of the people. That's kind of how it reads. But now that he's in Ifriti, it's kind of different. So Graham grabs the plate, throws it into the form of the Ifriti, and it boom, just pops him like a balloon, basically.
Yep.
So he's still alive, and so is the giant. And the beginning of chapter 27 actually opens with kind of a brutal bit of surgery,
bandaging up Dunstan, who was just sliced to shreds.
He's sliced to shreds, and they are very clear on this. He is being sewn up with a nail that they find and braided cord from the curtains. Which I'm like that's like, it's like a dowel rod thick. That's insane. He's not that big. That's still insane. And they're like, hey, motherfucker, this is going to hurt.
This is what we got.
This is what we got. This is what we're going to do. So we get like a really brief but brutal surgery scene. So the shadow slime that is left behind by Kuzgu it's taken out, but it's
bubbling
away.
Back. It's the mood slime from.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
From Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah.
You didn't sleep with it, did you?
Ego.
Always the quiet ones.
Lonely man. It's like that. It is like that. And so they're kind of trying to figure out what to do with it. So they put it in the cage that the Fairy Queen had bid in because it had magic canceling effects. And they find out pretty quickly that this is it's not working on him all that well because he's basically trying to use charm person on them.
It's working a little bit, but it's it's a short-term solution.
Yes, exactly. They need something a little more permanent here.
Yeah.
And so they go back to the secret door essentially that Graham had crawled under as a lizard to find the trapped wizard. They go there and they're trying to figure out how they're going to open it up. And Dunstan just smashes it open, which is classic. That's great. Chapter 28, we enter into that chamber where, to remind you, we have this figure in the center in a chair, and he's basically being bound by these beams of light. So the queen, who is not at her, she's like, I'm not at my fullest strength, but I can give this a try. Basically starts bending the light beams back. Mm-hmm. And as she's doing this, we get this painstaking series of moments where Dunstan keeps coming back being like, hey, look, he's fucking up that cage. You got 5 minutes.
He keeps poking it because Dunstan can't go in through the door. The door is too small for him. And he's like,
yeah, exactly.
He's just calling out and be like, guys, I don't know what to tell you, but we're going to die.
Ain't going well.
He's bubbling. Well. He's bubbling up.
He's a bubbling. That's exactly it. And it just goes like that for a while. Eventually they do free this man who's this kind of older classic wizard looking dude, with a beard and the robes and all that shit. He's that guy. We all know that guy.
Yeah.
So he's freed, and he says something about wanting to see Kudsku. Like, he's like, I've got to see him. But at that point, the magic that was holding the Kingdom of Sorrow together, the Sorrowful Court together, is falling apart because he was a battery. Dunstan was a battery. Now the batteries are out of the back of the remote. No more Netflix for you. So they, you know, and so we get that classic moment of like, we gotta get the hell out of here. And yeah, just scramble
Exit
out.
stage right even.
Yeah, exactly. And we get that moment. And we cut to chapter 29, where we have the long drawn out escape. Let me get my note here. So they're escaping. They finally make there's a lot of twists and turns, and they find that one imp that had helped Graham out, and he joins them, and they find Thragadash, who's the troll that had brought Graham there in the first place, and he's like, no, fuck that, I like it here, I'm not going anywhere. You basically get a little goodbye to all these named characters on the way out the door.
It's like Thragadash is like, they're like, you're gonna die if you stay here. He's like, no, I'm comfy. They're like,
I just don't see that happening.
And they're all like, okay, moving on.
Okie dokie. Yeah, that's basically exactly it. So if this were the part in the game, this would be, I believe they had this in King's Quest V. This is the maze. We've got to go this way, and you got to go that way. They get through the maze, and the kingdom, the court is basically, it's now a cave, essentially, in the side of a mountain. And they make their way out. And the moment the fairy queen and all of them get out, spring just hits immediately.
Yeah.
It starts warming up, and everything is already nature is healing.
Nature is healing.
Quite literally.
And guess what? Fairy Queen gets even hotter.
Gets even hotter. And they talk a lot about this. They talk about the Fairy Queen's hotness in a way that would make Graham's wife look like roadkill. It's kind of insulting. You're like, excuse me.
She's like, they're like, this is the most unattainable level of hotness.
Right. That's exactly it. And,
it's like, you know that moment when you first saw Megan Fox standing over the engine block in Transformers? Well, she's dog shit compared to that.
She sucks. and that's basically it. We get a lot of focus on that, which is fine. We do later in the book, we will get a moment where she's gonna leave, and Graham is like, yeah, you should probably go, because it's kind of implied that he's like, I might cheat on my wife if this chick is around me too long. It's like he's like, you know, because he's in love with his wife, but god damn, like that's basically what it says.
Yeah.
So, but the chapter does end with we meet Karn, who is the wizard that they freed.
Immediate villain name.
Immediate villain name, and he's like, you guys saved me, thanks so much. And Graham says, no, man, it's no, you don't owe us any debt. We're just happy to help you. And he goes, okay, and weirdly says, so you're sure that I don't owe you guys a debt? And they're like, yeah. And he says, great, because it's time for me to kill you now. Bum bum bum. So basically, in the next chapter, we are informed, Karn lets them know, this part kind of annoyed me because it's this brand new character. We are almost done. And he's got we've got to tell his fucking story. Karn, so basically he was not a prisoner there. He was willingly in that chamber doing this ritual that was going to take decades. That he'd been in there. It's implied he'd been in there for like 10 years or something like that. Long time. And he is using that to basically become the everything lich god wizard. You know, it's like, he literally says, he's like, because if I'd done this, I would have gotten everything. I would have been good at everything. I would have had everything. And so he's pissed that they basically came in and interrupted his shit, which, to be fair, I'd be pissed too. But then you're like, oh, that was kind of a dick move when you think about it. They didn't know that he was in trouble. And then you realize, oh, well, they would have had to deal with him in another couple of years as this super-powered wizard. So better now.
Might as well get it over with.
Yeah. So he starts beating on everybody, and he's just kicking everyone's ass. Nobody's a match for him until Graham gets the clever idea to slizzard him.
Getting slizzard.
He got slizzard, and so the chapter ends with the wizard saying, "I Karn." So that's his ultimate fate. We don't worry about it, guys. We introduced this super villain and took him out in roughly 20 pages. So don't worry about it. So we get the final chapter is the party is slowly dividing as they leave. They're making their ways home. The imp leaves with the Karn Slizzard. And just to make sure he doesn't fuck around too much, the Fairy Queen is given the actual lizard. The deadhead Karn goes with the imp, and it kind of implied that to maybe be eaten at some point.
Yeah, I mean, they don't bring the spiders back up, but
no, they don't, which I was surprised about because that felt like that was happening. But to basically make sure that he's permanently separated, the Fairy Queen, she finds the old wood, and they're like, you're gonna have this, but not before. But they do bring back the four brothers who threw Graham and Shallan down into that well to be eaten by the little gnome things with the bone furniture and all that shit. Right. They find them, and for some reason we get vengeance on them. They kick their ass and take Graham's cloak back because they'd stolen his cloak. And that because that matters, and we get that taken care of. That little
loose end.
That little loose end gets tied up real good, and then we get to the old wood, and then the Queen's like, "I'll always remember you." She doesn't say that, but that's kind of the implication. That's basically what you're getting. And
I'll always remember the kindness of strangers.
Yeah, exactly. And she takes the lizard with her so that Karn can never come back and fuck around anymore. She has a new name, which she's given herself a new name, which like translates to like the queen who was once saved by a human guy or something, something like that. And it's like, okay.
Okay. It's just weird because it's like in your language, it's very literal. Like in our language, it sounds mysterious, but in your language, it's just like
I can't help but think that you're going around calling yourself that to people who understand it, and it's okay.
It's weird, you know.
It's weird. So, and she keeps like these overtures of like, and I will remember you, and you can tell Graham is just like, you have to go. You are too hot and you have to go.
You have to get out of here. I can't deal with it.
I can't deal with this shit. I've had an erection that I strapped against my leg with a belt so no one would notice it. And it's lasted for 4 days. And I do not have the phone number of my doctor. And I'm fucked. That's a fact. So that was very graphic. So the book ends with Graham heading out into the woods, and who's there but Shallan? Shallan got away. If you remember in one of the last episodes, he seemed to kind of sacrifice himself in a way to protect Graham as he got out. But there's Shallan, and they have some quips, and they're gonna sing songs all the way back to Daventry. The end.
The end.
So, Kevin, what did you think of King's Quest: Kingdom of Sorrow?
I liked it. Yeah, it was nice. It was the way the story is structured totally worked for me. You know, it was like, we got to do something. And then there's a setback, and it was a nice, classic, set out for a goal, have a setback, go further type of thing. And it all worked. The thing, it loses points for introducing the big bad in the last 10 pages.
The end. Yeah, absolutely.
Did not enjoy that. I feel like there could have been just a little bit more with that guy. At least set him up
in the beginning somehow.
Set the name up or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
Like we've heard this name. Like we get this name earlier, Karn Nagito or something like that.
Right.
And then finally at the end, the guy goes, "Oh, my name is Karn Nagito." Dun, dun,
like,
dun.
Oh! Yeah, exactly. It's an anime. And they're like, it's that thing. It's I totally agree. I totally, that bothered me too.
So
yeah.
But yeah, what did you said to me earlier? You were like, it's a B.
It's
like
a solid B.
Yeah.
It's a nice story. And I think as opposed to the first King's Quest book, which we read, this one really genuinely, maybe more than any other thing we've read so far, really feels like the source material. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. I did some brief look. I haven't gone too deep into it, but I found screen caps that someone had created in the King's Quest V style of moments in this as if it were a game. It's just so neat. It's really very
awesome.
nice.
Oh, you know what? I think I saw that somebody was actually trying to create a King's Quest.
Were they trying to
game.
actually make it?
Yeah.
Oh, see, and that's the thing. This really lends itself to that. That would not be. I think that would work. And I think Kenyon Moore either she was already a fan of King's Quest, or she just did her fucking homework on a level that you don't always see with write for hire people.
Right.
So I do congratulate her on writing something, because and the thing is some of these books that we read, some of these franchises that we get into, I don't always know them. I'm not always an expert on them.
No, totally.
This is one that I know. This is one that I am very aware
intimately familiar with.
Yes.
Your son is named after the character.
Right. Like this is one that I know and take to heart. So it impressed me, the level of just it felt like the game.
Care.
It really did.
Yeah.
There was care taken for it, and I really enjoyed it, and made me hopeful for the third and final one, which we might get to next year. We'll see.
And that's also Kenyon Moore. Did she also write the? Okay.
She wrote the second and third one, and the other guy wrote the first one.
Got it.
So now that that's over, Kevin, I have one question for you. What are you playing?
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't expecting this.
No, I kind of put you on the spot here, and I'm sorry.
We never are. I am playing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and I am having a lovely time with it.
Nice.
So, okay. When it was first announced that Machine Games is doing it, I was both super hyped and also like, all right, well, let's see how this goes, because Machine Games is mostly known for, they did the Wolfenstein series, right? The most recent Wolfenstein series, which I adore.
They did a hell of a good job with it.
The hell of a good job. But I was like, all right, does that mean it's going to be more of like Indiana Jones as a shooter or what have you? And I'm happy to say that this game is a straight up adventure game. It's in it's in the first person, but it's an adventure game. And a lot of what you're doing is, so the opening tutorial level is the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Oh, literally. Cool. Up through like the boulder. And then you get kind of tossed into this mystery where you find a giant who is broken into the Marshall College Museum to steal something, and he just beats the absolute piss out of you. The giant, played by the late, the great Tony Todd, in one of his last roles. Tony Todd, we'll miss you. Yeah. So you get choked out by Tony Todd, and it just kicks off this. It kicks off this mystery of like figuring out where he came from and all that stuff, and you're off in the Vatican, and the mechanics are really cool because so like you have a gun, like Indiana Jones has a revolver. But the way you play the game, you're like, nah, I don't think I'm going to use it most of the time because it's a revolver and it's so goddamn loud. Like most of the time, you're just trying to sneak through an area. The moment you fire the gun, every fascist in the immediate vicinity is like, what was that? And it's coming.
They come running.
So almost everything, it's like, yes, the more stealthy way to go is almost always going to be the better option. Most of the game is like solving puzzles and looking for clues and things like that while avoiding detection by
fun.
Fascists, by Mussolini's black shirts. And it's really cool. I love it so far. I've been having some troubles with like the graphics settings. Like here's the thing. It runs really smoothly. It runs like in terms of, I have to put everything on low, obviously, but it runs super smooth. The only issue I'm having is there seems to be a glitch right now, and I'm sure they'll patch it out eventually, where certain laptop graphics cards have an issue with the shadows in the game, and it kind of like, instead of making them natural shadow looking, the objects that are within the shadows get kind of like this weird grayish texture applied to them. It looks weird. So I'm just like ignoring it for now and hoping that they patch it and just, carrying on. It's mostly an issue apparently it's mostly an issue in the Vatican area, the Vatican level that I'm in right now, because you're constantly going from inside, like indoors to outdoors to indoors to outdoors. You're like going in and out of different buildings and stuff like that. But the way the game is designed, it's not like linear level. Like you are in each level is a large sandbox.
Oh, okay.
Basically. Okay. So you are in right now I'm at the Vatican. And it's not like you have a main quest, you have a bunch of side quests, you have a bunch of smaller mysteries that you can solve for either to get money or to get like adventure points, and adventure points are actually the system where you level up. Like, so it's not like an RPG where you're like leveling up. You're the first part of the equation is you have to find a book on a topic like brawling or punching or whatever. And then you have to spend adventure points to like read and unlock the skill. So there's like a skill where it's like, if you are wearing your hat, and you get knocked out, you have a chance to pick your hat up and put it on. It's like a second life, basically.
Oh, that's fun.
That's like a skill you can learn.
Yeah, I like that. Okay.
So like everything is it feels like very perfect for like an Indiana Jones style game. And the whip is mostly used for traversal. Like, you can whip people. Whipping is mostly like will like stun and keep a guy back, but it's not like it's not a weapon necessarily that you would use. Use it for like getting to higher areas because you can like whip onto a pipe or something and climb up. Or whip a weapon out of somebody's hand. Stuff like that. But it is a lot of fun. It is a shame that it was released in December for the sake of a lot of the Game of the Year lists.
Yeah, a lot of people are done with those lists.
A lot of people are done with those lists. I assure you, I am not done with my list.
I didn't think so.
My list will not be finalized until I am actually recording the episode with Phil. And as always, the title card is subject to change. So I might even change my mind halfway through the episode. Who knows?
It's happened as far as you guys know.
As far as you guys know, yeah. So Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, playing it, loving it. It's also what's his name? Troy Baker who is kind of annoying as a voice actor and personality, but as a voice actor is absolutely crushing this role. Like,
oh, nice.
After a few minutes, I was like, of him doing Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones voice, I was like, well, I was locked in. It was one of those, like, you just hear it for a few minutes.
You're like, I'm there.
And also shout out to one of my favorite actors, who is one of my favorite actors, who fills a similar role to Joe Pantaleone, Enrico Colantoni, who is, most people will know him as Veronica Mars's dad.
That face, that guy.
Yeah, he plays an Italian priest that you meet up with
Nice.
At the Vatican. And he's one of my favorite character actors. Shows up in a bunch of things.
He's a solid that guy.
Yeah, he's a solid that guy. And you'll know who I'm talking about. The thing is, in the game, you might not recognize him right away because he has like a little, pencil thin Italian mustache and and all that stuff. But yeah, he's a very solid that guy. Nice. And he's also speaking Italian and has a very Italian accent as he's doing.
And he actually speaks Italian and actually knows what he's doing. So that helps.
So yeah, that's what I've been playing. What have you been playing?
Look, I'm still playing UFO 50. That game is the sheer amount of numbers that it has pulled in such a short amount of time for me is
that Ripley?
Yeah. Oh no, sorry, that's Jonesy's. We rearranged, and the bigger cat tree is in here now. And normally they kind of ignore it unless there's a bird outside. But because we moved everything, he's going batshit over it because it's new. That's what you got to do to keep your cats entertained. But yeah, look, UFO 50. I am embarrassed at how long it's taking me to finish Demolition. It's like one of those things where it's like it's right there, it's right in my grasp, and I still haven't beaten it. I started playing another one, which is like a turn-based strategy game with dinosaurs, which is that's super fun. I've beaten the first 2 difficulty levels of it, and I'm going in for the third one. I love this game so much. It feels like it was made for me. There's a level of discovery and fun to it that is only possible to appreciate if you are old enough to have played with one of those mysterious 100 games in one cartridge, or gone to that one friend's house who had all the video games and you could just go through them and find out what they were all about, or installed a ROM, with which I would never do. But you got 720 games in front of you and you're like, I wonder what this is. It hits me in all the pleasure centers. Having said all that, I think I'm done talking about it. It will be in the background, kind of like Balatro. I think we're good. Unless something weird happens, then I think we're good. I played 2 demos this week.
Back to demoing.
And I think they were very appropriate I didn't do this on purpose, but they were really appropriate to play side by side. They're both horror demos, and they're both super indie games. The first one I played was Tempest Triad, which is the current flavor of the month on like TikTok and streamers and stuff like that. It isn't out officially yet. It is this survival horror dinosaur game. It looks like it's trying to be what I'm hoping the Jurassic Park game that's coming out next year is going to be, where it's like Alien Isolation, but with dinosaurs. It's not quite that, but it looks that way. There's something there. Having said all that, it's very clearly just the flavor of the month thing that streamers play and scream at to get people to watch. there are some clever things to it. It's it uses mist in the same ways, and probably for the same reason that Silent Hill 2 did way back in the day. You can't see past a certain area. It's very effective. There are lots of very cinematic moments that are genuinely effective. You don't see anything at first. You're just going into this bunker at some point. You go in, you do a couple of things in the bunker, and when you come out, you see the shape of this pteranodon flying overhead, and it's pretty cool. It's an effective use of limited hardware. It feels like one person is programming this, and because of that, it is janky as shit. It doesn't feel very good to play.
Sure.
It's not, your action buttons and everything like that don't feel all that responsive. It feels very loose. That's the word for it, I would say. It feels very loose. If this is going to be something that people continue to play past the demo, it really needs to be tightened up.
Right.
It's interesting, but it's really cool. If I'm right, and this is just one person, then it is impressive.
Sure.
And it's ambitious,
right.
But it doesn't feel like something you can properly do, in an amount of time less than 2 decades. Right. It's just too difficult to create that experience all by yourself. Yeah. So very interesting. I'd recommend people take a look at it, because it looks pretty cool. Right after that, I played the demo for Devil's Hideout, which you got this game, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. This is also a horror game. It's a point and click, kind of classic adventure point and click. Very straightforward.
Sure.
Also a game that makes you feel like I think maybe one person is involved in making this.
Yeah.
But the difference is this uses those limitations effectively. It's got a great adventure feel to it. It's got kind of classic puzzle solving shit. The art is simple but good. Mm-hmm. And there are a couple of moments in the demo that genuinely I was like, oh shit, that's scary as fuck. I did not know they had that coming. There are a couple of moments that I was just like, I didn't know
you
we
were
going
not
there.
ready for that.
No, and it's pretty effectively done. I believe it's $10 full price, which might be worth it, especially if it goes on sale or something. But having played both of those side by side, it was kind of like showing me, kind of graphically, literally, in terms of like what indie is good at, and based on your team size and everything like that, and taking advantage of your weaknesses and stuff like that, not trying to make a AAA game, trying to make your game. Right. They were both really interesting. As I always do with the demos, I recommend checking them out, if only to take a look and see what I'm talking about here. Yeah. So that's me. That's what I played. Fantastic.
All right. Well, that'll do it for tonight's episode. Thank you all so much for listening. You can find us on Blue Sky at pixelitpod.com, or also we personally are on Blue Sky. You can find us on there as well. Coming up next, originally I had stated that we would be doing a Nier Automata. Long story short. Yeah, I do it all the time. I can't. I can't help it. But instead, we're ending the year with the graphic novel Returnal: Fallen Asteria, and then we're going to be having our Game of the Year episode. There will be a compilation episode of all the bonus episodes to start the year, and then we're off into 2025. We already have a bunch of our books planned out for 2025.
Dude,
as always, it's going to be a fun year. It's always a fun year, but this year coming up is going to be a fun year. All right. Anyway,
it has to be. It has to be a fun year.
We are mandated by heaven. We have the mandate of heaven to make it a fun year, because guess what? Shit's going to get bad in 2025.
Mandatory fun, people.
Mandatory fun. God help me. I will turn this car around.